fellow lovers of the Crew 2, today at precisely 8:53 AM on Monday the 9th of July, we are at war, we wage war, I declare war on my good buddy LP Ripper and Need For Speed Payback. Now, I'm sure many of you are aware a couple of days ago the Ripper man himself put out a video whereby he was talking about 5 reasons as to why Need For Speed Payback is better than the Crew 2. Now, here's the thing about the Ripper man is that he's a little bit of a Need For Speed fanboy, which is okay, you could be a fanboy, I ain't got nothing against fanboys. But you see, with myself, my relationship between the two games is actually different. I am a fan of Need For Speed, I'm not gonna lie, I've been playing it since I was a young kid, but I'm an even bigger fan of the Crew. To put into perspective just how much of a fan of the Crew's franchise I am, I spent more hours playing the Crew 1 than I did Need For Speed 2015 and Need For Speed Payback combined. Now let that marinate for a moment. Has it sunk in? Good. So naturally, as you could imagine, when I saw the video, I had to put on my cape, put on my hat, pull up my underpants, and turn into Captain Save-A-Ho again. So here are my reasons as to why the Crew 2 is better than Need For Speed Payback, starting off with one of the most obvious. Number 1, drifting. There is absolutely no sane person on this planet who can tell me that the brake to drift functionality of Need For Speed Payback, allowing you to just tap a button which then initiates the car into a slide on rails, almost like a Scale X trick, is more rewarding, more challenging, or more engaging than the somewhat closer to natural feel of drifting in the Crew 2. Notice I said somewhat closer to natural, yeah, before all of you Forza fanboys start getting charged and triggered and whatnot. Now, there are many technical reasons that I can go into as to why the Crew 2's drifter mechanic is better than Need For Speed Payback, but that's boring. I'm not going to do that because it's so obvious. What I will say is 2 things. First and foremost, I've got a 9-year-old niece who was able to rack up a decent score on Need For Speed Payback, and she doesn't even play driving racing car games like that. Secondly, the biggest drifting YouTuber in the world is the Slap Train when it comes to computer games, of course. I think we all know that. I think we can all accept that. He is the go-to guy for that kind of content. Before doing this video, I've done a quick search of his channel to find out the last time he hooked up his rig to Need For Speed Payback and done a dedicated drifting video. 4 months ago, and this is a guy that uploads almost every day, pretty much. More damning than that is the fact that he's only uploaded a handful of videos covering drifting in Need For Speed Payback compared to what he's done in games like Forza. Why is that the case? Because there's no challenge to it whatsoever. Number 2, the Crew has a full dynamic weather cycle, whether it be sunshine or overcast, whether it be cloudy, a torrential downpouring of rain, or heavy scattered snow showers. You can experience all of the above at any given time in the Crew 2. I ain't never seen a raindrop drop in Fortune Valley yet. I ain't never seen a snowflake drop in Fortune Valley yet. I ain't never seen a cloud overhead or a rainbow yet. Numero 3. Free DLC. So you just spent $60 on a game, 60 of your hard-earned bucks that you've been scrimping and saving to put together. In fact, no, better yet, you know what you did? You thought to yourself, do you know what? I really want to help Ghost. I really want to help that development company. I'm going to buy the deluxe version of the game. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put an extra $10 or £10 in their pocket to aid them further in their development. Only to be told that you've still got to continuously pay for DLC regardless of whether or not you bought the deluxe version, where you've given them extra money that you didn't have to give them in the first place. You would have thought the least that EA could have done is say, okay, right, those of you that bought the deluxe version who paid more can get, I don't know, the first 3 DLC packs free at least, or the first 6 months worth of DLC content free. No, that's not the case. You're paying for it regardless of what version that you bought. The Crew 2, on the other hand, January, free DLC. February, free DLC. March, April, May, June, free DLC. July, August, September, free DLC. October, free DLC. November, December, free DLC. The first year, the first 12 months of the game has been confirmed to have free DLC, downloadable content, regardless, irrespective of what version of the game you bought. So you could have decided to buy the base copy and you will still be treated like a king, like royalty. You'll be given all the content free. Tuning. When it comes to tuning, there is a large gap between the two when it comes to how mature the approach is in what each game allows you to do to your vehicle. Now, don't get me wrong, the tuning settings in Need For Speed Payback are actually not bad. However, you are limited to about 3 or 4 options per class of car. So for example, if you've got a drift build, you're looking at the option to change drift angle, weight balance, and handbrake strength. That's it. Obviously, if you change your car class or car spec, then those options will change accordingly, but you're looking at around about 3 different options per car, maybe 4 at a max. The Crew 2, on the other hand, uses a tuning system which is more akin to what you would come across in real life. Traction control, ABS, ESP, aero distribution, differential distribution, gearbox tuning, brake power, brake balance, tyre grip, tyre pressures, suspension rebound, suspension geometry, camber settings, front and rear anti-roll bar settings. You've got that same level of in-depth tuning regardless of what type of vehicle you drive, whether it be a boat, whether it be a plane, whether it be an off-road vehicle, whether it be a track-based vehicle. You've got all of that and more. On top of all of this, I'm pretty certain in Need For Speed Payback, you can only switch between automatic and manual, if I'm not mistaken. In the Crew 2, you've got automatic, you've got manual, and you've got manual with clutch for that added extra touch of realism and a bit more of a challenge and more control over your drifting and all those things there. A wider appeal to racing enthusiasts from all forms of motoring. Here's the thing, there's many of you who saw the initial trailers of the Crew 2 and saw that you had the ability to fly planes and drive boats and thought to yourself, what a stupid idea, who's going to want that? No one's interested in planes, no one's interested in boats. And I'm going to turn around and say to you, well actually yes they are. There are many people interested in boat events, plane racing, motorbike racing, dirt bikes, super bikes, touring cars, Formula 1 style cars, all of that stuff, rallycross, DTM cars, stunt planes, Red Bull X game events. Millions of people around the world pay good money to go and watch those events live. So that means there is clearly a market for those types of events. The Crew 2 is a game which is welcoming, not just to fans of cars, but to fans of all motorsports. It's a celebration of motorsports in general, thus making it a more robust, a more versatile game and more appealing to a wider array of racing-based fans. The next point is the fact that the Crew 2 is less linear and less strict, less vertical in the way in which the story progresses, or main campaign if you want to call it that, because it's not really a story mode if I'm honest with you. So we've already covered the fact that there's loads and loads of different vehicle types within the game itself. The good thing about the Crew 2 is that you can dip in and out of what vehicle you want to play around with. So for example, when you go through the whole campaign mode, if you want, you can just complete the game by driving the cars. So if you want to be the master of drifting, street racing, alpha cars and all that, you can just stick to that and you don't need to touch the planes, you don't need to touch the boats if you don't want to. Alternatively, if you want to, you can become the king of motorsports and master all different types of vehicles. So what Ivory Tower have done is they've said, hey guys, we've got all these events here, we've got all these different vehicle types. We understand that not all of you are going to enjoy using every single vehicle type. We understand that some of you will enjoy dipping in and out, and we understand that some of you might just want to go down one progression path of maybe just cars or just bikes or just whatever. It's your choice. You play the game the way you want. You can still complete it in whichever path you decide to go down. What they've done is they've given you the empowerment of choice. With Need For Speed, as you know, when you go through the actual story mode itself, depending on the character that you pick, you will end up in a different type of event. Now, the thing is this, a lot of people didn't like the off-roading in Need For Speed Payback. Ironically, I actually did. I thought it was a welcome addition, but I know that there was a lot of people out there that just felt the off-roading was too slippery, too slidey, and it just didn't feel realistic enough. No, actually, strictly that isn't true. It just felt too cartoonish. It's an arcade racing game, you're not looking for realism. But the point is, whether or not you like the off-roading, whether or not you dislike the off-roading, you had no choice but to do the off-roading if you wanted to complete the campaign, the solo mode, the story mode. No freedom of choice and no allowance for you to play the game how you wanted to, which is ironic because in 2015, you remember one of the biggest promotions of the game was the fact that you could play the game how you wanted. The Crew 2 has a first-person cockpit view, Need For Speed Payback doesn't. The Crew 2 has interior customization, Need For Speed Payback doesn't. The Crew 2 gives you the opportunity to create your own in-game character and customize him or her. You can change the gender, you can change their race, ethnicity, and style them in different types of clothing and gear. Need For Speed Payback doesn't. The Crew 2 allows you to acquire different apartments or houses around the map, of which start to upgrade as you progress through the game. Need For Speed Payback, on the other hand, gives you garages, which stay the same, regardless of how far you get through the game. Now, going back to touch on the subject of freedom versus restrictions, the map. The map in Need For Speed Payback is better than it was in Need For Speed 2015 to some sort of degree. However, it still suffers from having invisible walls, invisible barriers, places that you can't actually drive to that are always in the never-ending distance. No such problem in Ivory Tower's The Crew 2. As you know, if you've played the game, you can go pretty much anywhere. If you see a mountain in the distance, you can drive to it, you can fly to it, you can swim to it, you can't swim to it, you can get in a boat, which is the closest thing you can do to swimming. You know what I mean? Nevertheless, for the purposes of exploring, The Crew 2 is a far superior game in that respect. And now for my final body blow in this whole debate is loot boxes. Now, as you know, with loot boxes, this is more of an EA problem than it is Need for Speed Payback. But the problem is that Need for Speed Payback obviously falls under the EA banner, thus becomes part of the problem itself. Need for Speed Payback gives you the opportunity to spend real life money, real life currency in your back pocket, in your wallet, in your purse, whatever it is that you use to hold your coins in, credit card, debit card, Amex, to buy an unlimited amount of premium shipments, which have a higher chance of having more tokens to go out and buy speed cards to upgrade your car. That will give you a performance-based advantage over those who don't necessarily have the money to spend in that way for a period of time, until that person who can't afford to spend money in that way or doesn't want to spend money in that way has had to grind their way up, which could take, who knows, depending on how much free time they have. Now here's the thing, the Crew 2 has microtransactions as well, but the key difference between the Crew 2 and Need for Speed Payback is that none of that is tied into performance advantages. It's more vanity items. So, you know, situations where you can use the Uplay points that you've accumulated to maybe get clothing items for your avatar and things like that, which don't give you any form of competitive edge over anyone else in the game. Now obviously Need for Speed Payback have gone some way to try to fix that a little bit with the whole ketchup packs or catch-up packs, or I can't even say it properly, tomato sauce packs, which come off the back of you spending in-game cash, but it doesn't change the fact that there is still that loot box element there. So you mean to tell me after buying the deluxe edition, I then have to put my hand in my pocket again to use the new Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio, and if that in itself is not enough in terms of getting money out of people, you're now offering performance-based enhancements based on the size of an individual's wallet. Good stuff, thanks, I appreciate that. Now, here's the thing, there are many more areas and points I could have pulled out to build my case even stronger. However, I didn't want to make this video too much longer than 10 minutes, of which it's gone over already. Not only that, but if you pay very close attention to the points that I've picked out, I would say all of them, if not an overwhelming majority of them, are bulletproof. They are factual, not just opinion. But for the most part, this is my counter argument, this is my counter discussion video to my homeboy LP Ripper, just to readdress the balance and stand up for the Crew 2. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Obviously it's not a perfect game, there are areas that it needs to improve on, I think we all know that, but the point is, those are my points. Let me know what your points are. Oh, also, if you did enjoy watching this, don't forget to check out my full review on the Crew 2, which I put up a few days ago. Check it out, it's actually very, very balanced. I've spoken about the good things, I've spoken about the bad things, and I've spoken about cakes as well. Check it out. In the meantime, I will see you when the next video comes out. Take it easy, peace.